Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Get ready to find your free will from your roots in the stars.
Hello, this is Sue Rose Minahan, Talk Cosmos, October 12, 2019, and here in the Pacific Northwest, that's PDT time, Pacific Daylight Time. It is 6 o'clock to 7, but on Thursday morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, till 7, we will repeat. And we're in the Libra archetype. And tonight's subject is going to be involving tomorrow's full moon. It's always in the opposite sign. That's in Aries. And it happens to be 20 degrees, 14 minutes. And that occurs here in Pacific time at 2:59 p.m. That's in the afternoon. And, of course, on the east coast of the United States, that's 5:59 p.m. There's a saying, a Buddhist saying, 3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Of course, the last factor is, okay, what's the truth? But in a lot of ways, this particular chart, because it does involve, well, many things that we will discuss, is what is a truth to ourselves? What no longer works? Where are we wanting to shift to have truth in our life? And according to Joy's Way, written by W. Berg, that's B-R-U-G-H, Joy, M.D., he says, consciousness loves contrast. And he continues to say, it is through the consciousness of experiences that we are most likely to see most clearly. The greater the contrast, the more likely is awareness to pay attention. In Libra, it is the opposite. It is self and other, or any other. It is on the opposite side of the horoscope, the 7th house. So contrast, or you might say comparativism, is very involved. And again, this full moon chart, where you could say the sun is opposite the moon, which always occurs, that's what a full moon is, reflecting the light from the sun, is a lot of contrast, right? Even at nighttime, there's a lot of light, and it's like, what are we looking at? It does involve a lot of new beginnings. Now, with that said, I'm going to introduce a new beginning for Talk Cosmos. I have finally established a email subscription, and there's a couple of ways that you can sign up. Go to talkcosmos.com. That's really the whole great umbrella, because there you find out all about the guests and the events. And by the way, if you see the events, just click on it. Down there's all the details for I don't know what word to say. It's not ephemeris, but it does tell the sun and the moon, and if there is a sun, the degrees of it. And it tells also some interesting factors and about the guest, or later look at the guest information. And if you want the past episodes, which are on any podcast, or Podcast One, which partners with the radio station, you can also get the past episodes. So, back to the new beginnings. And that is that on the website, you can sign up for the posts, the weekly posts that tell about which speaker, if it's cosmic collaboration, what the topic is. And it also gives me an opportunity to get in touch with all of you and learn who are you and what do you want, and we'll communicate more. So I look forward to it. And I do have a Facebook page, that is. That's right. And on that, there's a little button, and it'll drive you right back to this email, because a lot of people have liked it, which is great. I do send that out, and will continue to. But really, honing into the website is great. So that's my new beginning, the email subscription. Yay. So tonight we have a repeat wonderful guest, Elizabeth, known as Liz Muschett, from Camano Island. She's come here directly, sitting right across from me here in Bellevue, the Seattle studio. And Liz is a certified astrologer. She has many attributes, tarot and numerology. In fact, she just co-authored a wonderful book she's worked years on, Gateways to Change, 2018 and Beyond, Keys to Navigating the Seas of Life Using Numerology and Astrology. And it was just published. It's a beautiful, huge book. And she has a couple of workshops the 29th of October and then also December 14th. And that'll be in Marysville. Later, 2020, besides various other events that she's holding in Marysville, will be a webinars. So there's lots of ways to connect with Elizabeth Muschett. And again, go back to the Talk Cosmos. Otherwise, if you want, her email is lizmuschett@gmail.com. That's Muschett. So if you can't grab that, again, go to Talk Cosmos. Okay, Liz is also teaching, coaching, tutoring. She's an ordained minister. She does sacral cranial Reiki, master, and teaches that energy work, and a universal spiritual counselor. Many wonderful attributes, as I was saying. And she's been on several past episodes. She started this whole program back on April 7th in Aries. Again, that summer, the 14th of July, that was 2018 for the solar eclipse. And this year, calendar year, a couple of times in Capricorn. She jokes that she likes all the cardinal signs, but it's really true. We are covering them pretty well. And in January, and that was a solar eclipse in Capricorn. And then, amazingly, in July on the 13th for the Capricorn lunar eclipse. And tonight. So thank you, and hello, Liz.
Hi, it's great to be back.
Yes, we have quite a full itinerary just to talk about. This is a chocked full moon, Aries full moon. Pluto, the ruler of the sun, is squaring the nodes. I know that's a lot of strange lingo perhaps for some people, but it really is a matter of how are we shifting ultimate depth and power and empowerment and growth from our past to our where we're headed. That's just one element. So with that, I'll hand it. I would love to hear your thoughts.
Well, it's really interesting because full moons are usually about releasing, but this full moon has a lot about beginnings.
Ooh.
And we can go back 6 months to when we had the new moon in Aries, and you can see if your wishes, hopes, and dreams, if any of those manifested, because right now is the time that some of those should be manifesting. But you may want to make adjustments to them because maybe you didn't see everything that you needed to bring that into being. And so you might make some adjustments. You may no longer even care to have what you asked for. So it's like a really cool time of new things happening.
I like this. If I may just jump in and say that corresponds with Uranus that is quintile. We had a long conversation last week about that energy, but here that asks for adjustments. Mm-hmm. So that's a great, and sudden getting to our true self.
Yes.
I'm just, thank you.
And I wanted to clarify that Aries is about self and Libra is about others. And also the timing here on the West Coast is 2:07 p.m. or 2:08. In the calendar, it's incorrect. It was printed incorrect, but
thank you.
Yes.
That thank you. 2:08. Okay.
And so it would be 5:08 on the East Coast of the United States. And it's commonly called the hunter's moon, and that's a time of preparing for winter. So some of us has been cleaning up our yards or cleaning out things in our life. And running the chart for here in Seattle, we have Capricorn at the ascendant of what we call the chart of where we start, and that's in Capricorn. And that rules the chart. And so the planet that rules that is Saturn, and those Capricorn and Saturn is all in the first house, along with the south node of the moon and Pluto. So I said that Saturn getting down to business, what works, what needs to be improved and what do we need to let go of.
Eh,
And that can be in any part of our
oh,
lives.
yes. So true. It is.
Yes. Aries moon. The moon is in Aries right now. It's about being authentic and independent. And the sun in Libra is about having the awareness of our relationship needs. Where do we need to compromise? And then there's also some tension or friction in the astrology chart right now, which I like the word chaos, but from chaos we can create. And sometimes it points us in the right direction of where we need to make adjustments and changes.
It is. I remember many, many years ago learning this idea about chaos, because it can be so disorienting if one doesn't get familiar with the whole idea. But exactly that. It's out of rearranging all these details, you can repattern, find a new pattern.
Yes.
So that it's very instrumental, actually. Difficult, though, depending how you get attached to it.
And looking at the chart, the sun is in the 9th house in Libra, and that's about what can I do something about, and what do I need to turn over to a higher power, and whatever that is to you, that's fine, because there's some things that yes we can do something about, and there's some things that we really can't. And then the moon is in the 3rd house, so I would say people are probably going to be speaking their minds. But do you want to speak your mind? It might be inappropriate, but it could just come out without any control. So be aware of that.
Well, with Venus in Scorpio and Mercury in, let's see, where is Mercury right
Scorpio.
now? In Scorpio too, yeah. The truth of how one, it's not necessarily that your first words are the truth, but by working through the emotions, one can reach the truth, I think, at least of how you feel. So I know one has to be a little wary of how truthful at the moment one wants to be, but there is some real virtue in confronting that truth, I mean, of how you feel. It's what?
Yes. And secrets could come out.
Oh, yeah.
That's always a possibility.
Surprise, especially with Uranus there.
Well, and it's at the top of the chart, so it's like really highlighted. Venus and Mercury are both at the top of the chart in Scorpio. So if you're having an affair, it might be hard to keep it a secret.
Oh, well, or if even sometimes, on the other hand, to oneself. I mean, obviously that can be too, but just even how you feel about things, or because in Libra, and we're still in the sun of Libra this whole time, it's possible, because it's so other-oriented, to not see what we are not facing within us. So it's projected out to others. So it's pretty easy to sometimes point a finger. And I have a couple of sisters, and one of them is famous, and another woman I just happened to talk with earlier this week reminded me of this, just in conversation, that when you point your finger, 3 come back to you. So I was like, hello.
Very, very true. And there's a lot of transformation that's taking place through all the chaos. So I would say not to fret. There's a lot coming back in a good way. And it's like clearing the path to new beginnings or better days to come. So that's really exciting.
Revealing. Oh, this is good, Liz. This is definitely good energy. Because it is tricky. We can also, I'm thinking about Libra, and compromise in order to meet a happy medium, which is a beautiful way of connecting with somebody. I mean, ultimately, we're social beings, and of course we want to work it out, but yet we can move the boundaries too much. We have to be careful that energy is truthful to ourselves. And I think Aries is in there too, the goddess of discord, the one that started the Trojan War, because she's asked the truthful idea. And then, so it's like we don't want to start huge wars, but on the other hand, well, there's always the other hand with Libra, but your reminder that there's this energy that's supportive, which might be the Jupiter too, that things can harmonize. Yes? Is that what you're presenting?
And Mercury and Neptune are making a nice connection in the sky. So what you ask for, you're probably going to be able to manifest it. So also be careful what you ask for.
Oh, now how is this? Tell me more about that. That sounds very exciting.
Well, they're a trine, so they're 120 degrees apart, but they're interacting very nicely. So
And I missed that. I forgot.
Neptune and Mercury.
Ooh. Oh,
And
no boundaries, Neptune of.
well, Neptune's
cosmos.
a dream and Mercury's how we communicate. So I would suggest to write down, if it's in your business life, things that you want to improve in your business. If it's a personal, what would you like to improve about yourself? If it's relationships, write it down and start working on it, because it's kind of a powerful time of manifesting.
And I have read, too, supporting this, that writing materializes it. It gives it form.
Yes.
So it's a really special tool. And Mercury, of course, is all about, like you say, communication. So it's not just talking, it's writing.
Yes.
Very
both.
largely. That's very important. And the fact, too, I'm thinking that it is in those houses, at least here, and we're talking from here between 3 and 9, that also has a lot to do with communication and
Yes, the full moon
right
is
in
in the
those
third
areas.
and ninth house.
Mhm.
So that makes a lot of sense. And through the chaos, you're going to see maybe some things that you want to change anyway, or maybe you've been wanting to change them for a while. So that chaos is bringing it front and center.
Yeah, which way to go? Isn't that always, especially decisions? Libra is the time of when, because Aries says, no, we're making a decision. I'm going forward. I'm getting away. I'm separating, right? Separating away. But Libra says, hey, we're a team. We're a partnership. How can this work? So it can have a lot of chaos just from that element.
Well, and are you helping everybody else out and doing we things all the time and not
Exactly.
spending time on self? So maybe it's time for a little self-care or yourself. Or
Yes.
are you being just about yourself and not being in any relationships? And it doesn't have to be an intimate relationship. It can just be going out to a meeting or a group or some new interest, or going out to lunch or dinner with some friends.
Yeah, and again, looking at all of that with the Libra influence, because Libra is one of the 2 planets ruled by Venus, or the guardian planet, is often said in a very nice way of putting it, or influencing planet, as Carolyn Casey says. So looking at Venus right now, it's opposing Uranus, Venus being recently in Scorpio, and Uranus in Taurus. So those are, again, another polarity signs. But Venus is connecting with the same point of the Venus star point, which was last year, October 26, 2018. And for those people, it's again like, oh, my goodness, another layer. Well, these are fascinating layers when a planet connects with the sun, has a cycle. And Venus is a very regular orbit. And it makes this beautiful pattern, and there's 5 points that last for 100 years. It's a long cycle. So for those that might whet your appetite to learn more about, there's many good books. Ariel Gutman is one, and Adam Gainsbourg is another. But at any rate, what the Scorpio, and these points remain for 4 years. They go forward 4 years and then backwards the other 4 years. So it's really an 8-year pattern. But the point being, 5 Scorpio is the Venus Scorpio point, the Venus star point. So the fact that you have, because I'm thinking about what you were saying about compromise. We were talking about compromise and that, but it goes back to values, because Taurus is all about your values, and they're across the way looking at each other. And in very strong survival terms is Uranus in Taurus. It wants our best So we really have to reconsider, if we're going to make compromise, what are our values?
Well, and Taurus likes to stick to their values, but with Uranus visiting Taurus, it's kind of shaking up the status quo of trying to shake people up to maybe make adjustments to their value system. And then Venus is across, and Venus is also about love and rules the second house of Taurus, is one of the rulers, and they're in opposition. So it's even possible to bring in a new relationship if you're not in one. It's possible to rekindle the relationship you're already in an unexpected way. And for lack of a better way to say it, I guess on the backside of that, there's maybe some challenges you're going through in a relationship, and maybe it's time to end it or take a break.
That's a very big theme here. Yes, all of this is important and good to recognize, because they kind of work in tandem in different ways, but yet it's deep, because Pluto, Venus, this ruler, is ruled by Pluto, and often in traditional might be Mars, but it wants soul growth. It wants to know what's really working in our life so that we can have empowerment.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and if everything was going smoothly, why would we want to make any changes? So with
This sounds like Taurus, yes.
the chaos, it's like kind of shaking it up a little bit. It's like, okay, well, things aren't going to stay the same, and we need to kind of make some adjustments here. And yes, Taurus does not like change at all. But Uranus is going to be there for another 6 years in Taurus.
Long
and it's
time.
like asking everybody to shake it up and change.
And without knowing how. It just happens, because it's like the lightning, the flash happens. We're going back to the depth and the transformation, because we have the node. Let's see, I was looking at Pluto, and Pluto is squaring, what is it that we're talking about? This a lot of tension happening right now, and it's with the nodes.
Well, there's a grand cross in the sky, and it's with Capricorn, the south node, Saturn in Capricorn, and Pluto in Capricorn. Then the sun is in Libra, the moon's in Aries, and the north node is in Cancer. So we have this grand cross in cardinal signs. And cardinal signs are about initiation and starting new things. So it's like now we have another signature or an echo of new beginnings, even though it's a full moon of releasing.
Oh, yes.
So I think the chaos is bringing it up to show us maybe some things that we need to release or let go of.
Yeah, and it can be moment by moment. This is ringing, how can I say it? It's really my own experience. I just was talking with someone, and right now we have the nodes, the lunar nodes, in Cancer. And as you were mentioning, the south node is in Capricorn. So we're headed towards, and it's ruled by the moon. And of course, we're talking about the full moon. And the moon changes every 2.5 days in another sign. And all these phases within the month. In other words, it's very changeable. And for those that are learning, that's a factor here. That's very important for the next months until March, as we continue this underlining theme. So it's really, when there's chaos, some of it is because the changes happen so rapidly. It's as though you look at one thing and it teeter-totters into something else, or else the priorities. But out of it, I know for myself, because I have an impending trip that I'm doing, and so I'm trying to coordinate and organize things. And it's like, really, what are my priorities? And of course, in a dream factory world, you think of, and I'm a Gemini, I have all these things. But pretty quickly, after a while, you realize, nope, cross off, what's really looming. And that might be evident if we weren't thinking of all these myriads of factors like emotions, like what's important to us.
Yes. And Pluto's doing the deep work that we need to do. Sometimes it can be shadow work. It can be the deep, dark night of the soul. It can just be things going on in our life that we need to transform and change about ourselves.
Yeah, when you speak of shadow, that always brings up, okay, what's shadow? Sometimes we know what shadow, but if one didn't really stop and ponder that, it's really that we can't see.
Exactly. Or we want to stuff down and hide.
Yes, that we won't recognize. We want because it does rock the boat. You know, it sort of shatters the scene. It's not that consistent. And right now, one of the languages is this consistency in the background that is getting shattered with Taurus. But and what we don't want to see, therefore we put on to others. Well, we've had many good threads. I am talking with Elizabeth Liz Muschett on Talk Cosmos. This is October 12th and repeating on the 17th. And we're talking about the Aries full moon, and that's happening on the 13th. And it's potent. They're all potent, but this one is going to rock and roll our inner depths. It's to shove away the old and bring in the new, which if it were as simple as putting the Christmas tree down, that'd be fine. But this is going to take some work. So we'll be right back, and we thank you so much. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the Yang period of Libra, ruled dually by Venus. By leaving the lower hemisphere of the self, the energy of Libra enters the arena where the completed self meets the other than self to form a relationship based on partnership. As a cardinal air sign on the descendant angle, represented by the equinox of equal light, Libra's energy learns through comparison and relationships, with the intention to integrate duality and polarities.
Intuitive coach and psychic medium Jane DeForest, the director of the Portland International Association for Near-Death Studies and author of the book Love Never Dies, will be appearing at Seattle's East West Bookshop on Friday, October 11th for intuitive art readings from 11 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. and presenting a Sunday class on the 13th from 1 to 3 p.m. Tickets are still available for purchase and can be purchased in person at East West Bookshop. For more information, call 206-523-3726.
Hello, universe. This is Catherine Metcalf, professional astrologer, intuitive, and tarot card reader. And you are listening to Talk Cosmos on Alternative Talk 1150 AM, where we discuss the meaningfulness of our roots in the stars, hosted by the beautiful Sue Rose Minahan every Saturday from 6 to 7 p.m.
Alternative Talk 1150. It's good for what ails you. This statement has not been evaluated by the FDA.
I like that. I have to laugh at that. Hello, everybody. This is Talk Cosmos again, Sue Rose Minahan, with guest Elizabeth Liz Muschett from Camino Island. And just to remind you, she too is having a book that she published, which is Gateways 2018 and beyond, and having some courses in Marysville. And you can contact her at lizmuschett@gmail.com and go to Talk Cosmos to check that out. And by the way, as we talk about our beginnings, do sign up for our newsletter. It's just about the subject, the guests, and we can connect. So that'll be great. Well, this last conversation has been all about the full moon, Aries, because we are in the month of Libra, and 2 weeks after the new moon is always the opposite sign. So this is all about relationships, and essentially relationships always seem to come back to the self. What we see out there is really somehow part of ourself. And it's really quite something. In fact, so there is that polarity. And this Aries full moon to the Libra sun, it is influenced. It's ruled by the warrior planet Mars. And we ask, what causes do we defend? And what to separate from? Mars is separation. It's moving forward, and in Aries especially. And to separate in order to wield our individuated path, because it's leaving from Pisces. There's always this continuation of the signs and their relationship to each other. Everything's a relationship, ultimately, you could think of. And therefore, it was part of the womb, and now it's going out. So from any aspect, you could micromanage. You could, well, I don't know about micromanaging, but you could look at from that viewpoint. It's where to go forward. But Mars happens to be in Libra. I mean, the moon is in Aries. So emotionally, that's what we're doing. But Mars in that path as we're going forward is choosing. It's not just their path forward has to look to what Libra is concerned about. The sun's in Libra too, and that is the other person and the other thing. So it's choosing perhaps a lingering concern with others and asking, what has stopped working? Is it working? Is it not working? There's a lot when it comes to earth signs, and there's so much earth, it's practical. It's like, is this functioning in some structure? And there's a lot that we're releasing through our structures. And why, as Liz has very well said several times, we have new beginnings. I mean, there's a reason we need some more space in life. So that's a good thing. So ultimately, it's not so pure and simple. It's a process, because this full moon, and moons, remember, basically have to do with our emotions, however it's colored or taken. And it wants to rethread these emotions and find a new life story. So we will continue. I know Liz was talking about the shadow, because there's so much transformation. So whether she feels inspired to lead on that or something I've just said, but we have still time here. Yay, we're processing.
Well, yes, and to know where you want to work from. And I also want to go to the moon in Aries, kind of a fiery moon, because the moon's usually a little bit more calm and about nurturing and others. And so the Aries moon can be a little bit of fire there. But it's really interesting because Aries' ruling planet, Mars, is in Libra, about others. And so Mars is not as energetic or fiery as Mars would normally be. So Mars is a little bit more in balance, or taking a little bit more time, or toned down perhaps. So it's like such an interesting
dynamic.
Oh, absolutely. And this full moon is dynamite.
Yeah. I know I know several people that have this configuration, or I can say just slightly, and it is incredible how it can manifest so beautifully. I mean, with that said, when the moon has Mars or Aries, actually I don't know them exactly with the same configuration, so delete that. But very similar energies, because again it relates. But they make decisive decisions. And I think part of the problem, though, is catching up with their own emotional state. You can know that you have to make that decision and make it and go forward, but then later it's the repercussions. It's like, oh my gosh, because the moon is still tender.
Yes.
And we can get hurt by other people's reactions to it sometimes. So it's not a perfect world. As far as what we design, it is ultimately all this functions in as you say, in the chaos of refiguring things, but it can be a bit painful.
Yes, and relationships are probably highlighted quite a bit right now. And I would kind of use this energy to do your manifesting for like how we would do it on the new year. This full moon is a really good time to start working on that. Doesn't mean that it has to be complete, but to start working on what you want to bring in for 2020.
Oh.
And you might start bringing it in between now and the end of the year, but start working on your list or your ideas of what do I need to bring to completion? What do I want to let go of? And what do I want to start new?
Well, isn't that perfect? Because I'm thinking in December is the new moon, and actually the solstice. I mean, it's all Capricorn, and it's another cardinal sign. And so just looking at the cycle, that's 3/4 of the way of manifestation. I mean, it's the last quarter where
Yes.
one can really see the seed of what one wants. So it's another layer. Yes, a good timing. Good timing. And it gives you a proactive. Aries needs to do something. All these cardinal signs want to do something, but Aries so much, wants to initiate. Like this is a very good idea there.
It reminds me of trimming back the trees or raking the leaves, kind of cleaning it up and making room for things to start manifesting in the near future.
I feel like chopping and pruning.
Yes.
Nothing so like, wend your, like hack your way through the weeds or the field or something. But no, it's very true. There's many ways to do that. And as you had said, writing it down is also so important.
Yes, because it's a heavy time to start manifesting and bringing things to life.
And again, too, I'm thinking about the whole energy of the movement of all these planets that are in signs right now, because there's such a concentration in Capricorn. As astrologers are aware, not only is the South Node, these points where the moon intersects the orbit of the sun, and it's in Capricorn where we're releasing our structures and our authorities and outdated structures. I keep going back to that structures. It could be institutions. You see it all the time in so many ways, traditions. And it's culminating to a very intense time in January.
Yes.
January 12th, that astrologers are talking about. They're aware of it. And so in other words, all of us, these changes are preparations, plateaus, little moments where maybe it seemingly seems, like you say, chaotic with some of the forces that are trying to funnel into the old that is outdated, or the overwhelm of certain things where there's no boundary. And so we need to kind of do something, and getting ingrained in the body is so important to connect. But the point is, it's in preparation. It's not just now.
Yes, exactly. And we also have a nice grand water trine in the sky. So we've been talking about emotions a lot, and so that can ask us to look at our emotions and work with them.
Let's look at those points. What energies? What are we talking
So
about?
Mercury in Scorpio, Neptune in Pisces, and the North Node in Cancer.
Okay. So we have one in its own sign, which is Neptune, because that's, how many years is Neptune? I know it's going until 2026, I think. It's over 13.
11 to 13 years, depending on what
13
sign.
years. So it's a good long time, and it's right in the middle, it seems like. So we're really very spiritual. It doesn't have boundaries because it is the cosmos, you might say. And we don't have the power. We don't have the power when the sun rises. The sun rises, and we're grateful for it. And it sets, and we turn. That's why it rises and sets. It's not all about happening to us. We're on Earth, and Earth spins and orbits, so that's the process. But the point is that energy is like the ocean, it has been said, yes?
Yes,
And Cancer is like we're the waves in the ocean.
exactly.
Oh.
Well, and getting in touch with what you desire, not what has been imposed upon you. And earlier we talked about writing down our dreams and what we want to manifest. So with Mercury and Neptune and then the North Node, it's like that North Node is going to help us bring it in even more. So we have that grand water trine. Look at our emotions. Start writing.
How you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling is really the root of all manifestation. One reads about it all the time. It's one thing to have it formed in your head, but But then to really ground and get connected with those emotions and feelings is the real key. So yes, it's
Well, and I've seen like some older women, like in their 70s or 80s, are saying things that happened to them when they were younger because they were so afraid to ever tell anybody. Because we're supposed to keep the skeletons in the closet years ago. But now as a society, we talk about things a lot more. And people say, well, why did you wait so long? And it's like they were so uncomfortable talking about it. And so I believe there's a lot of healing coming for those people that can finally speak words to it. It's like it was such this big secret.
well. I also noticed I brought up the idea of the Venus star points when Venus connects with one of these 5 points as it goes in this wonderful, repeating, flowering, beautiful cycle and online. And one of them is Aries right now. And Aries is 5 points, 5 points of Aries. So anytime you have 5 points, anytime you have any of these points in your chart or the other planets visited, you might say, by their transit, it activates. Well, Chiron, the wounded healer, is entering early Aries. It's like Taurus. It's happened since last May. I think it's this year. It wasn't last year. It was this year. It seems like a long time already. Half a year, my goodness. And so it goes backwards and forwards, but I think it's 2 degrees right now, Aries. So when you speak of healing, it is that breaking away of freedom. Aries breaks away.
Yes.
It separates. So it wants freedom. It's one of the freedom energies. And it defends for causes. It isn't just war. I mean, war has its reasons sometimes. Or many times, and, well, that's a whole other issue. But even speaking on a personal level, how it can be handled is always the issue. But that makes a lot of sense, that people would, because the climate changes. It's like clearing things out so that things can be felt or recognized. And by reaching emotions or feelings and writing them down, one can purge, maybe see that they're all centered on a certain wound.
Yes, and bring a lot of healing.
Yes.
And also Jupiter is in good aspect to the moon. So getting in touch with your emotional nature, Jupiter will help you to heal, or it can just make your emotions bigger too. So if they're of a negative nature, they could be bigger.
Well, Jupiter needs to voice things. I remember reading about this, and it's so true. They have an opinion. They have a pattern. They have a belief structure, and it's important to express it. It's not always so easy to hear that opinion because, of course, we all have our own opinions. But, yeah, it's so important to express, and it also expands. It's the rising, and when it's connected, and it's a fire sign, and so is Aries, a fire sign. So it can be a bit, depending on what end and how it's said, either exciting or a little bit difficult.
Well, and Jupiter is in Sagittarius, where that's the planet it rules and the sign it rules. So Jupiter's very happy where Jupiter's at, and then the moon's in Aries, which can kind of be a little uncomfortable, but it's that chaos coming up is like this ripe for healing, and transformation is so beautiful in this chart.
That's good light to remember, because as one's weeding or treading the waves, however you want to look at this, it can be a little bit, will I get to shore? Is there a shore, or is there any real soil in this plot that I'm weeding? And so by you reminding, yes, there is.
So any kind of
Right.
shadow work you're going to do, any deep, dark night of the soul work you want to do, you're going to reap very good benefits.
Ooh, I love it. That's right. It's worth it if you know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, wherever that beam hits.
Well, sometimes the wind is in our sails, and it's helping us to get where we want to be. So It's a really good time for all that. And to manifest, manifest, manifest.
Yeah, to consciously change one's life willingly. I think recognizing without denial, because part of these, well, when it gets to Neptune, it can be so overwhelming we can deny it. Denial. It's like, close your eyes, escape, think of something, which at a certain point is okay. Everything in, I was going to say everything in balance, but what I really meant to say is that for the cosmos, for the energies of the universe to work however they attract to what you desire and are feeling, which is really the essence of it, it comes in unexpected ways or through, it's said again and again. So sometimes taking a time out is a good idea, not just denial.
Exactly.
But still trying to work consciously as much as one can and working with the universe by what is offered. And I have a favorite saying. I have it tucked in my wallet, and it surprises me. Every few months I wonder, what's in this wallet? And I'm pulling around, organizing, and it says, okay, Sue, what does it say? I could pull it out right now, but it says, create every, control nothing, create everything.
Oh, I like that. That's great.
Yeah. So that actually has a lot to do with chaos too, doesn't it?
Yes. And with writing down what you want to create or manifest, I would say that this would be a work in progress. It's like if you sat down tonight and wrote it out, you're going to want to add things and change them next week or a couple months down the road. So I would work on it for a little while.
Excellent point, because especially with revealing things, when we just think of these energies, are by the virtue of manifesting into form, by writing it down, you can see it, analyze it, use your other tools of the self, and take time to consider. It might bring up memories that suddenly you realize weren't, yes, they may have been seen in that light, but it can be reviewed in another light and really have a larger personal truth or purpose for it. Also, other people write a lot about full moons and new moons, which is wonderful to kind of look at. And there's one, Georgia Stathis, wonderful astrologer, that's Stathis, and she has star cycles. And she mentions quite a bit about how this full moon is, as you had mentioned earlier about going back to the new moon in Aries, which would have been in March. But she was also saying that the eclipse, July 2nd, that this is 90 days after that eclipse, sort of halfway in between, right?
Yes.
Because they're all cardinal. We're doing Aries, and 4 cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. At the equinoxes and the solstices of action where the light turns. And so that's and that has a lot to do about the United States. That happens to be right next to the United States birthday chart. So there's a lot of activization that maybe we're looking at. So
it's always good to look at the midpoint of the solstice or the equinox, or not the equinoxes, the solar eclipses and lunar eclipses, because that's a major event usually.
It's like a full moon.
Yes.
A full moon of it. And here we're teaching, for those of you that are cueing into these little subtleties, the relationships. There you go. It is a pattern, a blueprint to look at. Well, beautiful. Well, then this really is significant. This is another point to capture about, to get more clarity in these beginnings. Like you say, what are the adjustments? What is it that we're wanting to do differently and consciously change?
And if you kept track of your new moon ceremony or your new moon 6 months ago, and you could look at what you wrote down, it'd be really interesting to see and work with it now here at the full moon. 'Cause that's a good technique to do, to see if you still want it, how much of it has manifested, Are you ready to let go of some of it or keep pursuing?
Yes, like every list, it changes in its focus and everything like that. Yeah, so the axis of power and its struggles and injustices, the whole imbalance that happens with struggle of power. It is something on a personal level because all of us collectively, we do make this universe, whether it's a nation or whether it's now more and more with internet and news, we're crossing the horizons all the time. So we matter. We matter. How one feels. If nothing else, it matters because it's how you radiate and respond out to others. Yes?
Yes, exactly. So watch your temper, watch your anger, pay attention to driving when you're driving the next few days. Just, try not to be in a hurry. Don't be on your cell phone. If it hooks up to your car and you can talk that way, that's a lot safer than trying to hold it in your hand and it's against the law anyway. But be gentle to yourself.
Gentle. That's very good because love, regardless through all of this, is really the redeeming factor. And Libra, when you come to Venus, and Venus is very involved in Scorpio, it is ruling, of course, the sun, and it's also ruling Uranus with its inconjunct in Taurus, is focused on love. And Venus and really Neptune with that square to Jupiter is the higher octave, or they might say the esoteric of the universal love. So really it is like, okay, there is a pathway here and compassion will rule. I'm going to make a mention here about next week, which will be on the 19th. And the astrologer will be Patty McLaughlin. And we'll be speaking about Libra and Pluto in Libra. The people born, and that was generational. It was for about 12 years. It wasn't a very long time. Maybe it was a little longer. And it was during the 70s and early 80s. And there's much to work on. It is a cardinal. It is to Capricorn with all these energies now. So that'll be a fascinating talk. And Patty is someone who is an evolutionary astrologer, and she travels around the world. She's based here in Seattle, but she's working soon in the Far East, and she was in the Middle East. So it's Central Asia, actually. She's traveled to 80 countries, so that'll be quite fascinating. And just to remind people that do sign up for the posts, go to talkcosmos.website.com, that is talkcosmos.com, or else go to the Facebook page and you'll get these posts and also about our Cosmic Collaboration panel. And Liz Muschett has been and is still here. We have a few minutes after I finish this little announcement, the guest. And to remind you that she has written a book that she and two other authors have worked for several years on, Gateways to Change 2018 and Beyond. And it's keys to navigating the seas of life using numerology and astrology. And she's giving a wonderful class October 29th in Marysville and on December 14th. It's only $40, and you get the book, a big fat book, and a 2-hour class. It's really marvelous. And she has other wonderful monthly events that are happening in Marysville. So go to Talk Cosmos, find out about Liz, and then in next year it'll be webinar. So if you can't make it and you're somewhere else, traveling like Patty, who's coming next week, well, there you be. Okay, Liz. Oh, and that's lizmuschett@gmail.com. So we have what? Oh, we have a couple of minutes, not much.
Well, it's been fun as always. I enjoy coming and being on the radio with you. This is great.
It is, and I'm so glad we're in person. And it's very exciting to have new beginnings. That's really the essence, isn't it? Here you have your new book, 7 years writing it. Oh, my goodness. And I have an email campaign. It's like, yes, we'll have connections.
We're all making progress. It's wonderful.
We are. I know. It's the teeter-totter of emotions and imbalance and wondering, but somehow there is light that's like, oh, good, that's finished, on to the next. And taking a moment to have that heart-centered self, yes?
Yes, thank you. It's been great.
It is. And thank you to all of you wonderful good souls. Blessings.
Thank you for listening to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Be sure to tune in next Saturday at 6 p.m. to continue finding your roots in the stars.